Well, good evening, everyone. Sorry, we're running a little late today. Uh, wow, okay. And my mic decided to run away with me. Welcome, everyone. We're just getting things started right now. Uh, and while we're waiting for Romney to get here, we will get into the stories of the day. Are you ready, Alex? Or at least the stories that didn't make the cut.
Yeah, ready as can be.
Yep. Um, the one in particular that I wanted to do actually did make the agenda, so I can't do that, and I still have it listed. That's my bad. Okay. Well, I guess first things first, how is everybody's Friday the 13th? I'm kind of worried about you, Alex, because, well, you work in a business where bad luck happens quite regularly.
Yeah. To be
Can't
honest, today
really.
wasn't too bad.
Okay.
All things considered, went okay.
All right. And then also, I just wanted to reach out to people. I actually am not going to be doing a review for this, but Evil Within 2, how are people liking it? I'm interested, but I haven't played the original Evil Within, so I'm not going to review it because I don't know the story. So at that point, I feel like I would get lost a little bit. Let's see. First story that we need to cover today, at least the story that didn't make it. Oh, the other one that I wanted to ask: has anybody here seen the Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman movie? I'm debating.
No.
I'm debating whether or not I want to see it. I knew that movie was coming. I really did know that that was coming. Like as soon as Wonder Woman was going to happen, somebody was going to pull out. Or is it James Marston or is it William Marston? They were going to pull out the origins of Wonder Woman, which, sorry, Alex, is not as cool as you might think. So I'm just going to warn you in advance.
So this is about the creation of Wonder Woman.
Yes, and the life of the guy who made her.
Oh, okay.
And well, the guy was in a I think the word is polyamorous relationship with two women.
I don't know.
Um,
I've heard there's been that's dubious. I've heard a lot of the stuff about the creators kind of dubious. I don't know. I haven't looked super deep into it
he's not
myself.
he's not the greatest guy ever. I mean, one of the reasons that he made Wonder Woman so enticing, unfortunately, was because he always put her in covers where she's in peril or where she's in bondage, kind of thing, and he felt like that was the way to sell comics. Um, there's some things about him, but I knew that the second that we got a Wonder Woman movie, like a legit one, we were going to get something in regards to him. And I'm not
Right. I've
saying
been
that
hearing about that.
I'm not saying that he's I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying anybody's perfect, but I knew that that was going to happen, and I have been debating whether or not to see it. I'll just be honest right here and now. So here's the first one that didn't actually make it. This was really close to our Nintendo talk, but Alex, did you know that Yoshi's original design was to be a horse?
No, I did not know that.
Not a whole lot of people did. Yep, it's been revealed that Yoshi was originally going to be a horse. The dinosaur's origins were revealed in an interview with developer of Super Mario World and Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, aka Shigeru Miyamoto. Uh, I'm sorry, Super Mario World director Takashi Tezuka revealed it, disclosed the details surrounding his creation. Miyamoto-san said he wanted Mario to ride a horse when we were making Super Mario Bros. 3. He had drawn a picture of Mario on a horse and hung it on a wall near where he used to sit. I would look at that and think, I think he wants Mario to ride something. So yeah, Yoshi could have originally been a horse. That is actually very
Okay.
interesting. It's one of those little details that makes things intriguing for that series now. So somebody wanted me to also bring this up. Apparently, William Shatner has gone on the record saying that he would go to Star Trek Discovery for money.
We're talking the series or what?
Yes, the
The
Discovery is
series.
the new series. So a lot of
Right.
people have been asking, are you going to be doing a cameo of some kind in Discovery? And his answer has been, well, they paid me right, sure.
Yeah. Well, of course they're going
And
to
the
pay him.
internet is outraged by this. I'm just like, guys, did you expect a different answer from William Shatner? Of course he's going to come back for money. It's not a horrible thing. And you know what? Given Shatner's popularity, yeah, he can make that. He can make that claim. You say, sure, I'll come do your series. Pay me for it. I'll be fine with it. But I'm pretty sure you don't really care about that because, I mean, first of all, Star Trek Discovery really isn't available to you.
No.
Because it's on the CBS streaming app. And, okay, maybe I'm speaking out of turn for you. You're not much of a Star Trek fan.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So, there you go. Let's see. Next one that people wanted to. Oh, so this got really close to making it, but so Disney Animation Studios has officially confirmed that their Jack and the Beanstalk movie Gigantic has been canceled following creative issues. So unfortunately, this film was supposed to release in 2020, and it just seems like, at least from what I can read from about 2 or 3 stories on the matter, because when something gets canceled, I actually like to know the reason. It looks like they couldn't get over a creative hump. They had an issue with trying to make the story work, and it was just not working in the timeline or in the time frame that Disney would prefer. So to some, that may seem like a bad thing, but to me, that's actually a good thing because if you're going to scrap a project, then you might as well do it in like the conceptual stage.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound to me like maybe a few things, like they had concept art, but they didn't have like official animations for people yet. So that way, not a whole lot of work has been put. And the good news is that Disney has reassigned a project to them for 2020. So it's not like this team is going to be out of work or anything. It's still going to happen. And welcome, Romney.
Hello.
Hello. So really quick, I'm just going to bring this. I'm going to do a lightning round with you, Romney. So first of all, Evil Within 2, have you played it?
I haven't even played Evil Within 1.
Okay. The Professor Marsden movie, have you seen it?
The what now?
So there's a movie based on the creator of Wonder Woman that has come out, Professor Marsden and the Wonder Women.
Yes, I've heard of that. I haven't seen it. It is something I'm interested in looking into, but as of yet, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so we're just kind of bringing you up to speed in the lightning round. Did you know that Yoshi was supposed to be a horse?
I can see it.
Yeah, you kind of can, can't you? Let's see. And then what was the last thing that we covered? Crap. We just barely. Oh yes, William Shatner. He will go to Star Trek Discovery for money.
Why is that news? It's called
I know, right?
Actor.
Okay, so somebody interviewed William Shatner and asked, like, will you go to Star Trek Discovery? And he said, yeah, sure, if they pay me right. And apparently the internet flipped out on the matter. Got mad at him. It's like, why don't you just want to go do it?
Well,
because he's a high-paid actor?
He's a high-paid actor, and plus, well, working up, even if it's a small cameo appearance, being on a film set is an exhausting job. I mean, yes. A good example, especially given that he'd have to fly out to wherever they're shooting the show. I mean, a close example of a similar issue is why that's the same reason why you didn't see a bunch of the original cast members from Power Rangers come back during the anniversary season, because they weren't getting paid. They weren't being even reimbursed for the tickets to New Zealand, so of course they're not going to go. So I'm just like, why is this a thing people are upset about?
Which really makes me wonder why Leo from Lost Galaxy did, because if I remember correctly, he left because of money disputes.
Well, it's interesting because with not Once a Ranger, Forever Red, he kept waffling back and forth because he first walked off the team up movie with Lightspeed Rescue because of how much was devoted to the arc with the little kid, and then he was kind of waffling back and forth of whether or not he'd come with Forever Red, so much so that they basically had to green screen him in, which you can tell if you see it in the scene where there's right before they all morph, you can still see the suit actor for Lost Galaxy in suit and not
Yeah.
and not the actor for Leo. And so with him, it's a case of he basically kept waffling until the last minute, so they basically had to add him in by a CG that has not aged well at all.
No, really not. And then finally, and you can kind of answer this while I go off screen really quick to go close the door, but so we officially heard that the Disney Animation Studios 2020 release Gigantic, which was supposed to be a Jack and the Beanstalk story, has been canceled because of creative issues. It looks like it was canceled very early on in its development, and so it's kind of a mutual thing. And since then, the animation team has been handed a new project for them to release in 2020.
That's the business. If projects get canceled early in development all the time, I mean,
yeah,
they either get canceled or they get changed, especially when you consider that Emperor's New Groove was initially going to be the film Kingdom of the Sun, but then it got reworked. And then there's also a bunch of other there's a bunch of projects Disney has canceled. So
sure,
I'm just like, yeah, that's Hollywood. There's a bunch of films, and
not just Disney. Every studio has a bunch of canceled projects. Like they couldn't get it off the ground.
Yeah, or stuff that had to be reworked into later projects. I mean, a good example is the original Shrek movie, because they had to rework it because Chris Farley died before they could finish it. Granted, they had almost all of his lines recorded, but because they were having to bring in a new actor to record what's left, they basically decided to re-record and rework the whole film.
Yep. And then the final story before we get things started that didn't make the agenda tonight is that we have officially confirmed from the actor of Robin in the animated Adam West movies that have been coming out recently. There will be more movies despite Adam West's unfortunate death. So people more just wanted to get our opinions on this. Is this sacrilege to do this without Adam West? It's really not, in my opinion. In fact, you know what? Adam West would probably approve.
Yeah,
because Adam West was one of those actors that like he didn't want anything to him. Like he never wanted to be the problem or the reason a project got canceled.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not that surprising. I mean, many people think may cry sacrilege, but let's face it, not everything DC animation has put out has been gold. It's had its fair share of problems, and I'll be honest, I'd take more compared to the other like animated Batman, animated DC films. I would take more of the campy style than the crappy pseudo post Young Justice style that we got with stuff like The Killing Joke.
Well, and here's the thing: like, I haven't seen the animated Adam West Batman, but I have been recommended it endlessly. I might actually have to see it just because of the peer pressure, just to see if it was worth it. Because like, I've gotten pressure to see this as well as The Killing Joke, and honestly, I'm more interested in seeing this than The Killing Joke. And
yeah, between the two,
Joke is depressing matter right there.
Well, between the two, Return of the Caped Crusaders is a better film, and I speak as someone who has seen both. The Killing Joke, it's okay if they cut. I mean, the best recommendation I would have is skip the whole opening prologue with Batgirl, and it's a decent film. Granted, it's pretty much too faithful an adaptation of The Killing Joke, but that's more or less what you're getting. Whereas Return of the Caped Crusaders, it has more of the fun to it, and it even pokes fun at a lot of the tropes that the Batman show had. And so, if you want to actually watch a film and have fun, go with Return of the Caped Crusaders.
Exactly. All right, so it is 8 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get things started. If you guys are ready.
Sound speed.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let me just bring the stories back up here. Oh, and I probably better do that. Greetings once again, everybody, and welcome to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for literally Friday, the 13th of October, 2017. It just feels appropriate when a Friday the 13th happens in October. It just makes sense there, even though I've been pelted endlessly with YouTube videos of like, we're going to watch Friday the 13th movies. We're going to play the Friday the 13th game. All that stuff. But hopefully everybody's had an awesome week so far. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. I've had an awesome week. I've been getting lots of work done. And of course, I'm being joined by my panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow geeks, fellow awesome guys in general. If you guys aren't checking out their content, you should be. And what the heck is wrong with you? We'll start things off with Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost, Utah, of From the Shelf, Romney's Reviews, and now Rhapsody in Cinema. Romney, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. This week's definitely been a week of ups and downs, both for a majority of personal reasons, but also just happenstance. At the very least, today ended on a bit of a high note as I got my copy of the release of Denji Sentai Mega Ranger, courtesy of Shout Factory, since I pre-ordered it. For those of you, yeah, huh?
Is it in space?
Yes, this is the Sentai series in space is based on.
Crap, I can't show my excitement because we're watching Zyuranger and now we're actually we want to watch the other Sentais because we're enjoying it so much.
Well, yeah, the nice thing about the Super Sentai series though is that there's no elaborate continuity between seasons. Yeah. I mean, I've jumped from Sentai series before because each one is meant to be self-contained and separate.
Exactly. Well, and I hate to even admit this, but I may have become more of a Sentai fan than a Power Rangers fan. I really do like what they did with Zyuranger compared to Power Rangers. And of course, we're also being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself, who has once again graciously come out of the shadows just for all of you guys and all of you ladies out there. And I'm very thankful to say that you're still not wearing body armor, so we haven't hit that point in the year just yet, Alex.
Not yet.
Okay, but things are still going okay.
Yeah.
Aside from it being Friday the 13th and, well, you having to deal with a bunch of really weird customers on a full moon.
On a full moon on Friday the 13th and the planets all aligned, weird shit happens. But no, today was actually a pretty just average, ordinary day. You know, okay. I at least got out of work on time for a change, which is always nice. So happy about that.
And what's weird is, like, my wife was also able to get out of work on time tonight. Like, she was able to get home early, and usually on Friday nights, I don't expect her home until after the podcast is done recording. Like, that's when she gets home around that time. And this time around, she got, like, home an hour later. It was awesome. And, of course, this is the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek, and we have a full agenda for you guys tonight, so much so that we just need to get right into it. So the first story that we're going to get into tonight is a story that's been happening over the last couple of weeks in light of the unfortunate shooting that happened in Las Vegas. And our hearts go out to those who are recovering from the horrible trauma and also from any bodily injury that you got while you were there. It was just a horrible thing to watch. And even I was just kind of I get dumbfounded whenever stuff like this happens, even when it's, I was a kid and Columbine happened. It's never fun to be able to do or be able to go through. It's traumatizing. And I've even heard testimony from people who endured that. So it's just not fun. But unfortunately, YouTube and Casey Neistat, I think is how you actually say his last name, unfortunately have a little bit of a dispute involving the Las Vegas shooting. So on October 2nd, Casey Neistat took to YouTube, and we're talking a YouTuber that has about 7 million subscribers as of the last time I checked his channel. And he went there to announce a GoFundMe fundraiser for the victims of the shooting in Las Vegas. He added that any ad revenue that was going to be coming into this video would be added to the overall charitable funds total that would be added in. So basically any views or any extra revenue that came from that particular video that he announced it, he would also add into the charitable donations. And unfortunately, YouTube sadly demonetized the video. And, well, like other YouTubers who are trying to do good things, he took to Twitter and didn't get the answer that he wanted. So Casey's tweet after it was literally a video about charity where I state all AdSense is going to that charity. YouTube says not suitable for advertisers. So again, guys, he got hit with the infamous adpocalypse. But then he got a reply from YouTube, which is, we love what you're doing to help, but no matter the intent, our policy is not to run ads on videos about tragedies. This is really frustrating because considering the fact that Phil DeFranco covered, I think it was about a day later after this whole tweet happened, that Jimmy Kimmel, who gets clips on YouTube, actually talked about the Las Vegas shooting. He cried about it, and he didn't lose his ads. Well, he technically did lose his ads. It went on and off and on and off and on and off, as if like YouTube was literally looking at it and going, see, we turned it off. We turned it off. And then they turned it back on for him.
That's not really the case. The ads never went away. Just the kinds of ads that appear on videos is always random. Sometimes you'll get a roll ad that's skippable. Sometimes you'll just get banner ads, it really just, it's kind of random.
Well,
I don't know how it works, but no, the ads never really went away.
They really didn't. Like YouTube made the claim that they did, but you're exactly right. It was like tiny little ads that got put in place. In fact, Phil DeFranco went the extra mile. He did actually show that when he watched the Jimmy Kimmel video, he got an ad, like a full-on car ad. I could show the image on the Gizmodo article that I'm running off of. But yeah, it's a little, again, it's one of those wonderful double standard moments of YouTube where it's very clear where their bias is in this matter. It was not towards Casey Neistat, who was actually trying to do something charitable. And it unfortunately was with the comedy host that I get that this is a tragedy and you don't feel it's appropriate to do humor, but here's where David Letterman and Jay Leno and Johnny Carson before you would have handled this better, because they would have looked at this situation and said, yes, now more than ever with tragedies like this, we need laughter in our lives. And unfortunately, no host went this direction, because I can confirm that Kimmel didn't do it, Conan didn't do it, and I'm pretty sure Fallon didn't do it, although I couldn't find an exact clip to his opening monologue that night. So
I saw his monologue, actually, but I don't think that's really the issue here. Yeah, he was very much joking up and tearing up, so
yeah.
Which,
guys,
you know, but again, I don't think that's the issue here. I think really this is not Jimmy Kimmel's fault. This is the fact that his show is ran on the ABC network. It's owned by Disney. His show is created and owned by Disney, and therefore Disney, the big bad corporate bedelos, YouTube obviously, well, it's clear more now than ever. If you have that corporate tie, YouTube is going to favor the large corporations.
Is the double standard, unfortunately, is that when Casey was trying to do something worthwhile for the unfortunate victims of the Las Vegas attack, and then at that point getting demonetized so that like his level of donations, what he could actually do, and I'm sure he was putting his own money into the mix, but when he promises that all the AdSense from that video is going to go there, and then YouTube literally just sits there and goes, nope, we're not going to do that. And then you can see a bunch of other videos that weren't demonetized that covered the exact same tragedy. And they don't lose a dime out of it. So yeah, you're exactly right, Alex. The purpose of the story isn't necessarily to complain about Jimmy Kimmel. I'm really not trying to frame it that way. The problem is that there is, again, this wonderful double standard within YouTube of they want to cover to the bigger corporations that are in there that are trying to get their stuff covered instead of little old YouTubers. I don't know if I would call Casey that little, but 7.6 million subscribers, that's still pretty high. But the fact that he was going out of his way, and YouTube basically said, nah, nope, that's a problem as far as I'm concerned. But I think I've cut off Romney and Alex a couple of times, so I'll open it up to you guys before I give my thoughts on the matter.
Well, yeah,
unless the court.
Well, because I know Alex kind of finished off his point, but he's pretty much already hit it on the head. There is a clear bias here, and the Tube Filter article goes into a little bit more detail. For those of you wondering, our agenda has two articles we're using for this story. The Tube Filter article goes into more detail into how companies like ABC are basically given permission to sell their ads to specific companies so that content can be targeted rather than randomly assigned through YouTube's system. And that's the other reason why Jimmy Kimmel's videos still have ads, is because ABC can sell the ad time associated with his videos to specific companies that can tailor it depending on the topic, which twists the knife even further because it shows, yes, YouTube is kowtowing to corporate interests, and much to the chagrin of those of us who've been on the site for years. And there's no other way to say it. It's pretty messed up that this double standard exists. There's not much that can really be done about it because, well, YouTube is kind of banking on maintaining the monopoly it has on online video, where it's basically saying, well, where the hell are you going to go? Are you going to go to another site? Which, granted, people are starting to, but that's kind of what we were stuck with here, is that now we've got corporate entities that are basically in control of YouTube. This is no longer the early 2000s days where it was a Wild West Badlands of creators. It's very much, the advertisers, the corporations, they are kind of ruling the day here. and there's not much we can do about it. It just sucks, and it's annoying.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and I'm actually kind of my opinion going into that is I'm actually happy that some major creators are actually branching out of YouTube. Just like they are, I don't. They still have their YouTube content up and available, but they are basically covering. And I get that they're covering their bases, but I like the fact that they are saying, okay, there is a possibility that YouTube doesn't survive this. We've actually even seen paperwork saying that YouTube is not doing so well, like financially. It's not actually being able to pay what Google wants as far as revenue. So at that point, a lot of people, myself included, I've actually been looking at it, is they're starting to migrate to other services and just at least put their content there and see which one does better. And then at that point, kind of make a decision where they want to go. In particular, the Nostalgia Critic, I've noticed, has actually migrated his stuff over to various sites, including VidMe. I believe he's got a solid page on Vimeo right now. And what's the other service that he's got? He's got his default Screenwave, but is it Dailymotion?
Not Dailymotion. I know it was like a newer site that came up. Because for a while he was doing like, oh, subscribe to this site and get the videos ahead of the other releases.
Yeah, well, that's the Screenwave player, I think, is what you're talking about.
I remember it was a different thing because they had like a subscription service that you could actually subscribe. Oh, okay. It was like Patreon, but you got the videos early, and it was a video hosting site. I'll go look this up while
And so at that point, I do like the fact that some of these bigger creators, these these pioneers, as we're calling them, are actually starting to branch out into new video services. I mean, Doug Walker is known for doing that with Blip. And in a lot of cases, Doug has gone on the record, and I know of a couple of creators aside from Channel Awesome have gone on the record and said, you know, we didn't want to go to YouTube. We didn't want the kind of pay model as well as the headaches that were coming with YouTube. We wanted to go to places like Blip where we would be able to, as creators, earn profit off of our hard work. And so at that point, I do like the fact that the migration is happening, because not only does this cover their butts, but it also allows for another service to maybe get a little bit more of a spotlight, which in turn allows for creators that say aren't doing so well on YouTube to be able to go there and maybe get a bigger audience out of it. Because right now the problem is that YouTube, I didn't even know the financial issues, but the financial issues add so much more to that equation, especially with Adpocalypse and all that stuff. I would dare say, like, I'm not saying that we're going to see the end of YouTube within the next like year or 2 years, but maybe within the next 5. If it can't sustain itself, then then Google will probably discard it and just say, you know what, we're not even worrying about this. We'll sell it only to corporate people. I mean, you're already seeing this now with YouTube TV. YouTube TV is now just creating its own TV service so that they can get at least some kind of money off of YouTube, and Google can start getting profits from there. So at that point, the winds may be changing in that direction. And I like the fact that that's happening, but at the same time, I'm also very frustrated that all this guy wanted to do was send out some charitable donations to help out the Vegas shootings, or help, or to some of those that have actually been affected with Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma stuff. Or what's the one that hit Puerto Rico? Is it Maria?
Yeah, Maria.
I've even seen videos get demonetized because of that, because they were talking about that tragedy. And so it's the dumbest thing ever, especially since it would look only better for YouTube to make the donation. And it's frustrating as far as I'm concerned. But this is another issue in a long list of issues that have been happening with YouTube all year long. And I don't see the issues resolving themselves anytime soon. Any other thoughts that we can add on this one?
Not much.
I guess the only other thing that I would put in is, like, if you're going to do charitable stuff for YouTube anymore as fellow YouTubers, don't rely on YouTube to be the place where you're going to give your donations. Maybe go to Twitch. Maybe if you're going to do a charity live stream, do it on Twitch, where you have.
Or at least don't rely on, or at least don't count on the ad revenue, because it probably won't come.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, I mean, it's obvious Casey Neistat will be okay because he still has the GoFundMe to fall back on here. You know, it's obvious he's arguing the principle of this matter, and yeah, the principle is important. So it's just you're gonna have to cover your base, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if I was to do a charity live stream, and we've been getting questions on it, like, will we ever do charity live streams for any situation that's happened? And really, I look at situations like this and I just go, no, I wouldn't go the YouTube route. I would go like the GoFundMe route, or I would go the Twitter route, or not Twitter, Twitch route, and get revenue there to be able to turn in. I don't know if I trust YouTube to be able to help out with anything anymore. So moving on into the next story, because unfortunately, well, and the other thing too that I also want to cover is, and you guys might need to step in here. The person who actually, there was a listener who actually brought the Gizmodo article to me specifically. And he brought it on the premise that apparently I've said in the past that Phil DeFranco doesn't do good things on YouTube. That sound right?
I don't think we've ever heard you say anything of the sort.
I brought up Phil DeFranco rarely, and I actually like Phil DeFranco, strangely enough. I actually think he's kind of a non-biased source to be able to go to, especially considering that he approaches things more on making news conversational instead of just reporting the story and being, default anchor on CNN.
Yeah. Plus the other thing is that he's also, well, yeah. Plus I remember we were singing his praises when the H3H3 lawsuit started, because he was the one who started the GoFundMe to help H3H3. It wasn't Ethan and Gila Klein themselves. It was Phil DeFranco literally bamfing in and starting that.
And I remember that. And for some reason, I weirdly swapped who Phil DeFranco and Leonard French were. I remember that happening. And so I was like referring to Leonard French and saying Phil DeFranco. I remember that happened, but I don't remember saying that. Unlike Alex, who thinks I hate everything, I don't hate Phil DeFranco. I think he's actually a worthwhile resource.
Well, to quote Tommy DeVito from the musical Jersey Boys, we all remember it how we need to.
Or how we want to. Yeah, exactly. So moving on into the next story. Unfortunately, we got lots of sad tonight, but this one is kind of I almost want to say bittersweet, but it's really just like, I thought this happened sooner. This is Stan Lee all over again for me. So unfortunately this week we found out that AOL Instant Messenger is officially shutting down after 20 years of service. And I guess my first question is, who was still using it?
You'd be surprised. I don't know about.
Are you confessing? Did you still use it?
No, I didn't use it, but I'm just saying, in terms of like holding on to like old technology, this isn't the best example, but I remember my brief tenure at the call center. I got maybe one or two people who still had AOL email addresses, for that matter. So there you go. Some people do still hold to the old systems and old technologies.
That blows my mind. So, like I said, when I first saw this story and it was being reported everywhere, I'm just like, AOL Instant Messenger was still a thing. And obviously the first question that came from a listener was there anybody on the panel that was still using it? I never used AOL. No. I remember using Yahoo Instant Messenger for a while. Strangely enough, me and my older brother talk via Hotmail Instant Messenger, but I never used AOL.
I remember trying to use, back when Walmart tried having their own internet service, I remember trying to use the Walmart IM briefly, but again, this was back in the day as a dial-up. We couldn't have more than one computer, and I didn't have any friends to IM back then, whereas my sister would tie up the computer and internet with her IMs frequently because she discovered role-playing pretty early on. And so, yeah, like AIM kind of passed us by just because, well, dial-up was dial-up.
What about you, Alex? Have you ever used it at all? Like not currently, but just like ever used it at all?
I think I did use it once at some point when I was looking for, probably after MSN Messenger went away in place of Skype. I started maybe looking for like alternatives because I didn't want to jump to Skype really.
Mhm.
So I think I tried it then, but I never stuck with it.
Okay. Yeah. Again, unfortunately, I never used it. But now here's the thing. So a lot of people are immediately assuming that this is shut down as of right now. You can't access it. The official letter that I think a lot of AIM users have actually gotten that says it will work up until December 15th of this year. After that point, it will be shut down permanently. So at that point, you get to say your goodbyes, maybe reroute some people to other chat services. And yeah, but unfortunately, AIM will be no more in December. So after 20 years, AOL Instant Messenger will close its doors. And I guess this is kind of sad if people were still dedicatedly using it. I do know that there was actually the reason that we had the drop was because of the significant downturn after, what was it? The article actually goes into a particular moment that they lost a bunch of subscribers on it. Oh yeah, after the cost of the Oscar messaging protocol became too high to justify, they lost a lot of people. So after that, yeah, it's a little sad. Especially to those who were dedicated users. So if you guys were, I would actually, you know what, I'm going to encourage you in the comments below on the YouTube video and even on the RSS feed. Let us know. Tell us your stories. I would actually be very interested in your thoughts on AOL Instant Messenger. And final thoughts from you guys.
Not much. I'm kind of with you. I'm just like, wait, that was still around?
Yeah, that's really kind of my viewpoint on the matter. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm just how long before Yahoo Messenger goes away now? Because most people are either using Discord or using Skype. So it's just like how long before the rest of the messenger services start to fall?
Yeah, they're using Discord, Skype. I mean, Google Hangouts is still being used a little bit more often. It does make you wonder now, doesn't it? I don't know, but I guess my answer to that would be Yahoo's still a thing.
Yes, Yahoo's, as far as I know, still a thing.
Yeah, I haven't gone to Yahoo in forever. So, I mean, Yahoo was my place before Google.
Yeah.
All right.
Used to be mine. I used Yahoo Instant Messenger quite extensively at the end of my high school years when I chatted with people.
I was going to say, I went to Yahoo when they started incorporating like other search engines into there too. Because before that, I was using Metacrawler, just because you could then do multiple searches and multiple search engines. But then I moved over to Google right after that. So there you go.
I still use Yahoo Mail, but that's another matter.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, you still use it.
Well, yeah, and plus the email services are still going to stay. It's just because those are not as difficult to maintain as an instant messenger service. So people who have at AOL.com emails, you're safe. You'll still have that. It's just instant messenger that is being sunset.
Exactly. All right. Well, moving on into the next story that we have, which has been kind of taken out of context by a lot of internet outlets out there. So we're actually running off of two articles, one from Anime News Network as well as Kotaku. For our Nintendo Talk segment, there is apparently a rumor going around that Nintendo has registered a new Game Boy trademark in Japan. And the reason I say it was taken out of context is because the way that it was originally put was somebody took this the wrong way and saw the trademark filed as Classic Mini Game Boy. And so at that point thought, oh crap, we're getting the Game Boy Mini. So like the NES Classic and the SNES Classic before it, we were going to get a Game Boy version of it, probably having 30 to 40 games. And that got the speculation train a running. Now, since then, we've been able to confirm that that is not correct. And in fact, there is really no specific name on the trademark, but it does cover a variety of possibilities. So, in particular, here's a few of them that Kotaku brings up. So, home video console programs. It could relate to programs for smartphones, smartphone cases, which does make sense. I mean, Nintendo's done cases or things like that for their products. Smartphone covers, key holders, necklaces, watches. and again, Nintendo is kind of known for doing these things with the original NES, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that they would do it with the Game Boy. And so a lot of people are unfortunately going, oh, well, we're not going to get a Game Boy Classic. I'm here to tell you, I don't think this necessarily, it rules it out in this case. We know that that's not where they're going with it. But to say that you're not going to get a classic mini Game Boy, I think you will. I just don't think it's going to be anytime soon. That's like that. Again, take my word for it. I have no confirmation on the matter, but I mean, we make the joke that the next thing would be the N64 Mini, but it actually makes a lot more sense to go back and do the Game Boy Mini and cover up that nostalgia before you go into N64. What about you guys? Where are you standing on the trademark that's been filed by Nintendo?
Well, I'm kind of in the camp as the Kotaku article where it looks like it's covering it for home video game console programs, smartphone cases, covers, so on and so forth. It's basically Nintendo making sure that someone else doesn't try to beat them to the trademark on a medium they haven't covered. We see this sort of thing all the time with a lot of other industries. I mean, many people think, oh yeah, you copyright something with the Copyright Office and you're protected across everything. Well, that's not the case, because there are certain terms you can't copyright, and then there's also cases where you have to make sure you're copyrighting the terms for specific avenues. So, for example, you could have a copyright for a title of a movie. That doesn't necessarily mean it applies to if someone were to make a television show with a similar title, or if there was a book with a similar title that doesn't have any of the similar content. Copyright and trademark law is kind of weird like that.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because here's the thing. Nintendo's not the only one that's guilty of it. I've known a bunch of video game developers that have trademarked names or concepts just to have the name. And they will put the most vague aspect into their original patent application for it, just to keep the name for themselves. In particular, Blizzard is guilty of this, because whenever they come up with a possible expansion idea for a game, they will trademark the name, and then wow, the rumor and the speculation train just gets a flowing. And sometimes there's something that comes out of it, and sometimes there really isn't anything. So this, I really do think this is just the case of Nintendo saying, well, we want to have this thing trademarked. We don't really know what we're going to do yet. But that way we're prepared just when we have that idea. But again, I don't really think this is ruling out a Game Boy Mini. I really don't think it is. I just don't think it's happening right away. What about you, Alex? Where are you standing on it?
Okay, well, I almost was inclined to think, oh, we are getting the Game Boy Mini, because until tonight I didn't read further beyond the first story that I found and posted. So, because I think we've talked about other patent speculations, like I think we talked about a patent speculation for what would become the SNES Mini, and that turned out to be true. So I thought maybe there was going to be something to it, but okay, I guess it's just for now it's just a coverage patent to kind of protect some other assets that related to the Game Boy. I do agree. I think we could still see a mini Game Boy in the not too distant future. Who knows when? Hopefully sometime before or after we get the Nintendo Space Shuttle, but we're still not quite sure about that yet.
Alex, make up your mind. Didn't we already get the Space Shuttle?
No, we didn't. That's the point.
We didn't. We got the Switch. The Switch is fine and all, but we're still waiting that mysterious Nintendo Space Shuttle.
I know, but we actually did get a listener going, well, technically you did get your Space Shuttle because the Switch is existing, or because of the Switch's existence. No, that's not what he meant. He wants an actual Space Shuttle, guys.
Yeah, or an expansion to the Switch. I mean, that would probably get him to buy it, as if there's an actual Space Shuttle expansion.
Yes.
I'm actually, people might be wondering why I'm facepalming right now. It's because I'm actually picturing it in my head. It's like, the Space Shuttle Columbia skin that you could put over the Nintendo Switch. And now I'm picturing it in my head going, oh, what have I done? And Alex wants it. Dang it. Okay. But yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to get a Game Boy Mini. Just one that you could plug into your TV. My only problem with it is that my problem with the other two, they don't really have a whole lot of games that I would want off the matter. And frankly, I have a feeling that the Game Boy Mini would have the exact same problems. I have a feeling certain titles will be there. Obviously, Mario Lands will be there. Link's Awakening will be there. The Pokemon First Gen will be there. But I'm not
Well,
sure.
even then, not necessarily, because that's the thing. The other problem with the Game Boy Mini is considering how the Game Boy banked on on being able to play with other people, whereas the Game Boy Mini would be a standalone system, so they probably wouldn't put stuff like Pokemon on there because of the fact that in order to fill out your Pokedex, you have to trade with other players. That and the other big thing here is that, well, they have the portable consoles like the 3DS, and they put the Game Boy titles on Virtual Console. Because, I mean, at least with the NES and SNES minis, that makes a little bit of sense. If you got people that didn't buy a Wii or a Switch who just want the nostalgic stuff, that's there. But if you've got someone who's a diehard enough to be playing portably, they probably have the portable console. And so making a Game Boy Mini, it seems needlessly redundant.
You know, speaking of that, somebody actually brought this up to me. A friend of mine and me were having this debate, and I want to bring it up to you guys. Is with all of the like the NES Classic Mini and the SNES Classic Mini, you know, we still haven't gotten an official Virtual Console announcement for the Switch. We've gotten the idea of like maybe being able to compete like they did with the NES remixes for the Wii U, but we haven't gotten an official like here's when Virtual Console's coming. Does anybody kind of get the feeling that this is basically a subtle way for them to replace the Virtual Console?
Well, I can see where that idea comes from, but it wouldn't make a lot of sense from a business standpoint because of the angry people you would have that bought the system at launch, even if you were to do some sort of ambassadors program like the 3DS, especially considering that the other downside is that with Virtual Console, you can add and expand the library that people can download and choose which games they want to play. Whereas with these Game Boy and SNES minis, you can't. I mean, if they could, that would actually make them valuable, but you can't. You're locked with the set amount of games. And so them using those to replace Virtual Console just doesn't make a lot of sense.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm being overly paranoid on the matter, but we haven't gotten that official announcement yet. We've gotten like some details on the online system and how it will work. And then we did get those occasional, like, here's how Virtual Console will work. You can battle each other for your high scores and in Super Mario Brothers or whatever. And then nothing else. And it's like, so is Virtual Console going to work the same way that it has on the Wii and the Wii U or not? And I don't know. The fact that they're being quiet on the matter is really beginning to concern me. What about you, Alex? Where are you standing on this particular theory?
I don't think so. I think they're just more... It's just more Nintendo diversifying their market and not relying too heavily on their single piece of hardware to sell them. I think the Virtual Console has been big really since the Wii. Mm-hmm. And while we know Nintendo is not like the most highly competitive, super competitive in terms of trying to match toe-to-toe for Sony and Microsoft, I think even they would want to keep the Virtual Console a thing so that they can stay relatively in the same playing field as Sony and Microsoft. Just because, well, Sony and Microsoft have their online stores, and, well, the 3DS is still a big thing, and a lot of the 3DS appeal is their own Virtual Console, so it just makes so much sense for Nintendo to keep the Virtual Console. It's probably just a case, well, yeah, they're kind of sluggish on the Switch's Virtual Console because they're still trying to get it to a functional state at this point.
Yeah. Well, I at least wanted to throw that speculation out there, but just kind of bringing it back to kind of wrap up the story that we have. If it is something along the lines of like a smartphone case or whatever, is that going to be enough for you guys to buy it? I'll admit I was interested in the NES things that came out. Like I did want to get an NES belt buckle, and I wanted to get I could never find one, but like an NES Game Boy Advance SP kind of thing. Would a Game Boy cover be something you would want?
You give me a Game Boy Color cover, sure, I'll buy it. I bought Nintendo socks, and I never had an NES, but they had an NES on it, so I bought some socks.
But not the original Game Boy. Clearly, Alex's love is very much shown here.
I had a Game Boy Color, so that's why I'm saying, give me a Game Boy Color, I'll buy it.
All right, what about you, Romney?
Honestly, I mean, I have my fair share of themed things like a phone case, probably not. A keychain, maybe, but it's not something I'm going to like actively seek out. I mean, the closest video game related thing I have in that regard is a Street Fighter keychain that is basically E Honda versus Dulcim, but that's was because it was on sale at a Graywell when I was getting a bunch of other things at once.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's there and it's a reasonable price, maybe, but I'm not going to actively seek something like that out. Now, if they made a Game Boy case that actually fits the LG Stylo 2, maybe, because, well, I can't find any damn cases for the LG Stylo 2 because everyone's moved to the Stylo 3, but that's a whole separate curmudgeon rant.
Or in my case, I mean, I'm still running off of an iPhone 6, so I have a feeling if they were going to do anything for that, it'd be the current model of iPhone. And so at that point, I wouldn't be able to get anything. All right, so moving into the next story, we have a bunch of anniversary stuff and things being cut off, and this kind of continues it on. So earlier this week, Bandai of America has officially announced that a new set of Tamagotchi toys that are smaller at about 60% of the size of the original ones will be released in honor of the toy's 20th anniversary. So I find this a little funny. AOL Instant Messenger is shutting down after 20 years, and Tamagotchi is celebrating 20 years of being a thing. So I'll probably try and put this image up in the RSS feed, but we got kind of a concept design of what it's going to look like. So here's where the live chat can actually see it. So it's basically going to be a Tamagotchi, but it's just going to be a little smaller. So you can be able to fit it on your keychain and be able to have your classic Tamagotchi fun. And a listener brought this to our attention, simply asking, and I quote, "Is Alex going to force Drac to buy a Tamagotchi so that he can actually take care of a pet this time?"
No, because you'll still let the pet die, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, but it's going to happen. I mean, the problem is that Drac may have changed in a lot of things when he became an adult, but his ADD didn't go anywhere. So that's kind of the problem there. Is as soon as I'd be interested for the first couple of minutes, I'll be like, okay, cool, that's great, and then I go leave. And I
plus you have your own real life Tamagotchi pet, and that is your child.
I do in fact have, and you know what? She's already enough of a handful. I don't need a little pixelated monster when I already have a little Rugrat running around. So that's going to be a thing. What about you guys? Are you guys actually interested enough to go and get some of these 20th anniversary Tamagotchis?
Not really. I mean, I didn't really even play the Tamagotchi toys back when they were in vogue, mainly because I remember not really seeing Tamagotchi. I remember Gigapets were the big competitor, and the closest that I saw was that my older brother got really into like the wrestling Gigapets, where you would train your wrestler and then you could connect the two together and have your wrestlers fight one another. But that was like the closest it got. And so, yeah.
Yeah, because you could get wrestling and monster-based ones, and you could link them up together. No,
I look at this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just look at this and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, if you like that sort of thing, great. It's just not really for me. For me, it just brings my mind back to, well, first it brings back to, oh, I guess maybe Bandai didn't realize, oh, maybe we should have done this around the release of Digimon Tri, but then again, I guess
that was the thought I had too, is like, okay, so they're going to do this thing for Tamagotchi. What are they going to do with Digimon? Are they going to like re-release the old Digivices that you could also link up and be able to fight these things?
Probably not.
That would probably be something that people would want, but it's like, yeah, I was actually saying, doesn't Bandai own Digimon too?
Yep. In fact, it was actually Digimon was based on Tamagotchi. They just decided they wanted to create something a bit more masculine to appeal to boys, because Tamagotchi as toys appealed primarily to girls, or at least those were the ones that were buying them. And so it was a case of, okay, they created Digimon, added the battling and training components to appeal to boys. And so the other thing that just my mind...
They also made the justification that since Pokemon was also kind of cutesy, that it also catered to girls a little bit. They completely ignored the fact that there actually were kind of masculine Pokemon, but that's why they went the more manly approach for Digimon, at least that I remember reading about.
You know, it's funny you say that because originally in Pokemon, Clefairy was going to be Ash's companion, but they changed it to Pikachu to appeal to the boys. So I don't think Pokemon ever got accused of being too girly.
Yeah, and the other thing that this just reminds me of, and it probably doesn't help that I recently reread this chapter, but there was an early chapter in the Yu-Gi-Oh manga about Tamagotchi. Like, they didn't say it by name, but it was that same virtual pet thing, and I'm just like, okay, does this mean we're gonna have someone whose virtual pet becomes evil and starts eating other virtual pets? I'm kind of scared now.
Wait. An idea just came to me. They're monsters. They're in a capsule. Holy crap, Capsule Monster Coliseum makes sense now!
Well, to be fair, this was early Yu-Gi-Oh! Before it became all about the card games, and back when the creator was drawing it as a horror manga, so my mind just started flashing to some of the really, really messed up imagery from that particular chapter. It, like, straight up nightmare fuel, people.
So, I mean, unfortunately, it looks like most of us are not, like, the Tamagotchi anniversary is just going to pass us by, especially when you consider that these things are going to be available for $15, and maybe I'm just remembering wrong, but I could have sworn the original Tamagotchis were like 10. So at that point, it's like, oh, so you want me to pay an extra $5 for something that's smaller, and that I will eventually kill the pet inside again and again and again? Yeah, not really.
Just watch. Suddenly they'll become popular when someone decides to make a Five Nights at Freddy's style horror game based on them. I mean, we've already got duck season now, so I mean, it could happen. Someone's going to make a horror game centered around Tamagotchi toys, and that's going to suddenly make them popular again.
No. What's frustrating me is, like, we could potentially have the designer listening to this podcast, and then he'll come to us like 10 years later going, because of Stephen Romney, I made Five Nights at Tamagotchis. There you go, Romney. There's your legacy right there.
Yeah, except given that it's Japanese, it would probably be four nights because, again, superstition.
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much all we got. Happy anniversary to Tamagotchi. We hope you have a good anniversary, but it doesn't look like any of us are going to be celebrating it with you. So that wraps up our tech portion of this evening. Let's go ahead and get into our entertainment portion. And we're going to start things off with a very unusual New York Comic-Con announcement that we kind of skipped by the previous week, but people actually did want us to talk about it. And that was, I guess, Marvel was proposing a alliance or at least some kind of a business partnership with Northrop Grumman, which is they are probably the biggest defense contractor in the States, I think. I think they've got the highest one.
Yep, they're one of. Yep,
they're the highest defense contractor. And so at that point, Marvel was going to announce that they were going to basically bring Northrop Grumman into the Marvel universe, specifically state that Tony Stark actually does work with Northrop Grumman, as well as the Avengers. And they would be one of the Marvel universe's biggest defense contractors, constructing bombers, military aircraft, laser weapons, other instruments of destruction in the universe.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But this announcement never made the panel because as soon as people started finding out about it, well, it got canned very quickly. And in fact, I believe that one of the ideas that was going to happen was, remember that the Punisher panel at New York Comic-Con got canceled because of the Las Vegas shooting. I believe this was one of the concept ideas to replace that panel, and then that got pulled, and then Stan Lee's thing that actually did happen at New York Comic-Con actually happened.
Yeah, the other key thing to remember, it's not that they were going to bring Northrop Grumman into the actual Marvel 616 universe. It was that they were basically going to do a bunch of tie-in comics. Marvel has done this in the past to basically produce comics that promote certain industries. I remember when Slick had their career days, the metalworking table that was trying to promote all the classes that involved metalworking had Iron Man comics they were giving out that were meant to promote the program. And so this was a similar thing. It was basically going to be a series of comics promoting engineering and the sciences that was basically tying into the work done by Northrop Grumman. And, well, people got rightfully pissed off because, well, as Adam has mentioned, they're one of the world's biggest defense contractors. insofar that they construct, well, a lot of weaponry and a lot of military vehicles that are used to basically rain destruction left, right, and center if they can monetize it enough.
Well, and on top of that, this wasn't just fan backlash. We actually do have a tweet from Saladin Ahmed. I think I'm actually saying that. The current author of the currently running Black Bolt series. He actually lashed out, and I think a couple of other comic creators for Marvel, as well as I think even DC, lashed out against Marvel for doing this, and that's why it got instantly pulled. There was no good reactions that was coming from this, and so obviously Marvel looked at that and said, this is going to hurt us. And probably even Northrop Grumman looked at it and said, yeah, this is going to hurt us. And they pulled out of their deal right then and there. And instead we got a Stan Lee panel. So at that point, unfortunately, there isn't too much to say about this aside from they were going to do this comic series. And because of the fan backlash, it never happened. I mean, this is usually where we get into opinions, but as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I don't want to immediately turn down the idea. If they want to do it, that's fine. Anything that gets the creative juices flowing is literally kind of my motto on the matter. If this is what gets the creative juices flowing, if you're in writer's block, then go for it. But for me, I just, I guess I don't really see where the direction of the stories was going to go right off the top of my head.
Yeah, looking at like little further down the article, it was basically meant to be a series of digital comics that were basically meant to more specifically promote the appeal of STEM fields, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, basically all of those jobs that pretty much every school in the country keeps trying to promote. And so that was kind of pretty much what this was going to be, is that, hey, let's see if we can get kids and teenagers, the people who read our comics, see if we can get them excited in looking into STEM fields. And, well, Northrop Grumman, being a military contractor that also worked on the Apollo lander and a bunch of other scientific discoveries, it's one of those cases where, on paper, it sounds like it would actually be ideal, basically teaming up with a major engineering company and technology firm to promote the STEM fields. But again, a lot of people knowing what Northrop Grumman is a part of, that's where a lot of the black backlash comes from, is, well, the anger at the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, but at that point, I just don't see a reason for this to be the end of that aspect. If anything, like, you could still encourage this stuff, and maybe even Northrop Grumman helps out with it in the fact of, you could advertise, if you like science, here's this science kit that you can start learning on, or here's this book you can get for science in the Marvel universe kind of thing. And eventually I know of at least a few scientists that have actually branched from science in fictional universes into actual scientific fields. So at that point, that's always kind of a really great springboard, and maybe Northrop Grumman could help out behind the scenes on this one. I don't know if that'd probably get backlash too, but I don't see that this has to be the end of that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's well-intentioned, but it's definitely one of those things that, especially given the timing, because that's the other key thing, it's the timing with what's currently going on, both politically and in terms of all the other controversies. It's very much one of those, the people know what Northrop Grumman is really about, and although, yeah, they have the funding to spin things in a positive light, the other thing to consider is that Disney owns Marvel. Disney wants to mitigate as pretty much any and all bad PR wherever possible. Yep. And so if it's a case of, okay, well, this may be a good idea, but if it's going to make people mad, then let's backpedal this so that way we don't sully the brand.
And that's especially true when it comes to, I mean, right now, their biggest cash cow, we all have to admit this in some regard, their biggest cash cow is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They are getting a cut of that, and it's a really nice big cut out of it. I'll guarantee that, again, don't quote me on this, but I'll guarantee they probably bring in more than Pixar's brought in the last year, or Disney Animation Studios has brought in the last year. So now, if you think about it, the almighty mouse is now being targeted towards that cinematic universe, and they don't want to hinder that. They want to keep that going as best as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also true in the case of the Star Wars movies as well. And we'll get to Star Wars a little bit later tonight, but yeah, Star Wars also has that almighty mouse effect. We don't want to affect this universe. What's your thoughts on this particular story, Alex, given what you know so far about it?
Well, as I'm not really a big comics reader, really, Yeah, I mean, I could have probably told you it was a bad idea to try and team up with a defense contractor. Is if you wanted to promote science or engineering, you probably could have gone to a different firm for the promotion, but you went to Northrop Grumman. You kind of were asking for trouble by, oh yeah, teaming up with the primarily defense contractor and weapons manufacturer. It makes sense for, say, this case of Tony Stark, but
Well, especially given Tony Stark's background, he used to be that exact same guy.
Yeah, so not much you could do about it really at this point. It's probably just for the best Marvel pulls out. I would have loved to have seen Linkara talk about it, maybe.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Like, I might be going against the grain in some regards, but I don't see a reason that it isn't still a good cause for, say, Northrop Grumman to donate money to put in advertisements in comics to get people interested in these scientific fields, into engineering, into mechanics if they want to be. They just don't have to be, they don't have to do this comic storyline. They could probably just have a little credit down below just saying this ad was paid for by Northrop Grumman. It's, to me, it's like the same deal of, would I be as annoyed by this if, say, let's replace Northrop Grumman with Halliburton? I don't care, because it's still trying to, again, I get the corporation's evil and nobody likes it, but the fact that they're trying to encourage young scientists to be scientists, I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing. Maybe I'm, maybe I'm the fish out of water here, which it looks like I am. So
I guess it's just sort of, you can't really shake the stigma that comes with it. That's why, I don't really know how to explain it much better than that. It's just sort of, it's the dark cloud that even for a noble cause, it's the dark cloud that still kind of looms over.
I get it, but at the same time, I would not care if it was Baskin Robbins, much less Northrop Grumman, that was funding it. I really wouldn't, because at that point, I would look at the overall goal here, which is this young scientist student that is very interested and says, "Oh, well, are you interested further in science? Here's a discount for this chemistry kit, or here's a discount for a book on science in the Marvel universe," and then they branch off into those own things that benefits the student, that benefits the kid who can go into his inspirations, and eventually it does benefit those companies, because eventually, I mean, yes, they are the merchants of death and whatever, but, well, how do you change a company image from the inside? And who's to say that you don't have your potential Tony Stark that's looking at that comic ad and that can eventually own Northrop Grumman and change the image? That's all I'm saying here is, like, I get that there's a horrible stigma, but stigmas can be changed over time. But Romney, looks like I'm horribly in the wrong, at least on this one.
No, it's not that. It's just,
yeah.
It's just, again, it's one of those things. The stigma is there, and again, it's a noble idea, but again, given the current climate, both sociologically and politically, there's no way for Northrop Grumman to really escape that stigma, especially when a lot of things came to light about how involved they were with the presidential campaigns back then. And so, again, they may revisit this in the future. It's just it's a case of timing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move into the next story. And this one, well, I'm usually not the guy that brings up the week's events, but this unfortunate situation kind of loops into another one. And so I have kind of opened things up for the panel to discuss that other situation. We'll get to that in a second. But I am also going to say, at least for the live chat and also for those who are going to be commenting on the RSS feed, I am going to be watching the comments like a freaking hawk. And if it so much as branches into, your regular everyday political bullcrap, don't be surprised if you see your comment disappearing, because that's not really the reason that I'm bringing this up. It actually is a worthwhile story to talk to and to talk about, and it does loop into something that does concern us as YouTubers as well as people who are aspiring to be in the creative industry. So let's go ahead and get into it. The Honest Trailers creator, Andy Signor, has been fired. I believe it happened earlier this week for egregious and intolerable sexual behavior. Now, people might be wondering, how did the creator get fired from his own product? Well, his own product isn't necessarily owned by him. Defy Media, the company that owns Screen Junkies, which, you know, if you've ever seen like the Honest trailers, this guy is the creator of that. Or not the. A lot of people might be thinking this guy is the trailer guy. He's not. This is just the guy who created Screen Junkies and the idea for it. But I'm just gonna go ahead and start things off with Defy Media's full statement that came out earlier this week after his termination. So Defy Media and Screen Junkies have today terminated Andy Signor's employment effective immediately. There is simply no justification for this egregious and intolerable behavior. We'll get to the behavior in a second. In August, Defy's HR team was made aware of allegations made against Andy, at which time an investigation was launched. On Friday, new information became available, and the scope and magnitude of his inappropriate actions became apparent. We are acting swiftly to address the concerns of the people affected, and that going forward, our community is free of harassment or discrimination of any kind. Our Screen Junkies colleagues and freelancers are a team of remarkable creators serving loyal fans, and we will support and protect them. If anyone else is aware of behavior of this type, we would encourage them to bring it to our attention. Now, the behavior in question that we're talking about is Signor apparently had a pretty notorious history of sexual harassment of at least 5 women that we know about, all of which have shared similar accounts on social media of basically getting wild passes from him, sexual harassment on multiple occasions, including one, where is it? That, what did he? Crap. Oh, yeah. So one in particular was a former Screen Junkies intern, Emma Bowers, who actually said that Signor once invited her to watch him masturbate. Sorry, get your kids out of the room. We're going to be talking about that stuff. But yeah, Signor once invited her to watch him masturbate. Another woman wrote that after she began interacting as a fan with Signor, he made sexual overtures to her and tried to arrange numerous meetings with her over the last 2 years. This crap in entertainment bugs me to such an extent. When people are basically abusing their power in these kinds of ways, because, well, we all are content creators and we know better. And I would at least like to think that Screen Junkies at one point, Andy Signor, knew better and instead decided, well, to pull a Harvey Weinstein. That's why in a lot of cases we can't really avoid this particular discussion. Because in light of Andy Signor's firing also came Harvey Weinstein's firing from the Weinstein Company. Appropriately enough, one of the people to actually assign his firing was Bob Weinstein, his brother. So I'm just going to go ahead and open things up to talk about both Signor as well as Weinstein. But again, if people start pointing in the comments towards this is why this particular presidential candidate won or lost, your comment will disappear. Again, we're talking about something that is relevant, and this is a haven from the bull crap of everyday politics, okay? We just can't avoid it in this particular situation.
It is something that you can't really avoid because, well, there's no other way to say it. This is a very messed up problem with the entertainment industry. And one thing, the reason that this kind of started trending was because some of the women that have come out against Andy Signor actually came out because of how almost all the women, I think they're up to like 20 or so now, have come out against Harvey Weinstein and have began telling their stories. And keep in mind, with Andy Signor, it's like, yeah, you had people making allegations, but he wasn't nearly as, well, for lack of a better term, untouchable as Harvey Weinstein. But now that Weinstein's going down, it's opened the floodgates of a lot of women coming out with a lot of these stories of really messed up conduct from a lot of people throughout Hollywood, because it's basically, oh, well, the Titan just got knocked off his perch. That means no one is safe. It means, yes, you're in the clear. Tell everyone and anyone willing to listen about the crap you went through, because now is the time to take them down, because you literally took down someone who was pretty much untouchable. And that's kind of what started this cascading effect that I believe may have informed the firing of Andy Senior from Defy Media, especially after more women started coming forward after basically the inspiration from the women coming forward against Harvey Weinstein. And there's no other way to say it. Behavior like this is deplorable. It is absolutely sickening, and it needs to be rooted out and cut out like the cancer that it is. That is the most eloquent and clean way that I can voice my opinions, because seeing these stories, and it's actually part of the reasons why my mental state was a little all over the place, was I do not have kind words for people who abuse their power for the sake of sexual favors. I have a whole list of things I would want to do to said people, but if I spoke openly, it would probably open me up to police investigation, to say the least.
So, I mean, at that point, you know, like I said, you really can't avoid being able to do all of this. And maybe I'm going to be the guy who is kind of, well, morbid in this regard, because I don't see the firing of Harvey Weinstein as a bad thing, nor Andy Signor, but in particular Harvey Weinstein, because when you look at Weinstein, we've said it on a couple of podcasts throughout the years, he's probably one of the bigger power brokers in Hollywood right now. So then at that point, what happens here is that if you dethrone Weinstein, granted, the Weinstein company is still there, so I mean, you can't get rid of them, but with Harvey out of the picture, that actually does allow for a little bit of a power vacuum to maybe start taking care of some of these abuses that are actually happening within Hollywood, and then eventually granted, more than likely it would be putting somebody probably worse or on the same par as Harvey in that place, but I would hope that it would put somebody more towards, you know, actually wanting to try and follow the rules kind of thing. Unfortunately, I don't have enough faith in Hollywood to put anybody like moral, you know, like anybody with scruples in there. I honestly think it'll probably either be another Harvey or it'll be someone worse.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing to consider, and it's actually another sad pattern with Hollywood. They tend to protect their own until they get caught. If they get caught, then they basically try to separate themselves left, right, and center to basically mitigate the damage. I mean, it is literally an industry founded on illusion, on maintaining the illusion of glamour and glitz. They're going to do everything in their power to maintain that. And so it just so happened, it's like, Harvey Weinstein got caught, so we have to publicly condemn him. Yet, another thing to consider is Woody Allen still gets work. And you've got the laundry list of crap that he's done, and although he was never taken formally to court, the fact that Woody Allen married the daughter that he adopted and is still getting work is messed up. It really is.
Well, and Woody and Harvey aren't you know, standalone examples in this regard. I mean, the other one that I want to bring up is Roman Polanski, who for some reason, even though I believe he got a jail sentence, didn't he? Roman did?
Well, I don't know if it was like a jail sentence per se. I just know that he's not allowed to come back in the U.S. because it's very much a case. As soon as he comes to the U.S., he'll quit.
He's fled the nation. But you have Roman, and you still have people speaking positively about Roman Polanski, knowing what he did. And the same thing is also true for, unfortunately, Harvey Weinstein. As you know, I was mentioning this to Alex off camera, is that it bugs me to no end that you have people like Meryl Streep and Gwyneth Paltrow and Matt Damon coming to the defense of Harvey Weinstein when it's very well known in Hollywood he has this outstanding record. Tina Fey, amongst others, have joked about this record. Like, I mean, even I know, I'm not a 30 Rock fan, but even I know the 30 Rock joke where the one woman stands up and goes, I halted advances from Harvey Weinstein on 3 out of 5 occasions. Okay. I know that joke. And if this is something that Hollywood has been more than aware of for this many years, I know why they didn't do anything, because Harvey, again, is a power broker in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, here's where I have to be the mean guy. They're just as culpable as Harvey because they didn't stop any of this. So nope. I'm sorry, but I'm like one of those guys that just sits there and, you know, whenever Meryl Streep wants to go off on one of her rants, it's like, you are not the first person I want to hear talking about any particular issue, whether it be politics, whether it be everyday things, because you're just as culpable as being an accomplice to Harvey Weinstein's actions as Harvey himself.
Yeah.
You might as well be the person making the sexual advances towards the woman.
Yep. And I do have to say, good on Ronan Farrow for pursuing, because he was the person who broke this. He initially brought it to NBC, but NBC killed it, so he went to the New Yorker. And pretty much good on Ronan Farrow for keeping up with this investigation, getting all the evidence, and finally bringing all of this to light. Because yes, it sucks that, yeah, Weinstein got away with a lot of these other things.
Yeah,
but
because again, this is 20 women that we know of. These are the 20 women that came out.
Yes, and it's very unfortunate that it took that many, but I am of the opinion, at least now we know, so we know that it's pretty much, to utter the famous quote, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. Now that it's public knowledge, he won't be able to do much more from now on. Yes, the damage is still done, but at least here, it's a case of, okay, it's now public knowledge. His reputation is pretty much ruined at this point, and now he can't be expected to get away with this crap much anymore.
No.
And so it's bittersweet. I understand that the women, there's probably still a great deal of anger and a great deal of pain, but at least this is an important step that now everybody knows the truth. And it's a small but important step to basically eventually root out a lot of this bullshit behavior that is still in the entertainment industry. And the fact that we're seeing it in internet video as well proves, okay, it's very much, we need to start, it's very much one of those, okay, we have a much younger industry, we need to head off these trends now before you have entrenched people in the internet video community able to get away with this crap.
Exactly. I mean, the problem is that, back to Signor, or is it Signore? Is that how you say it?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's Signor. Everyone I've ever heard, even on the Screen Junkies channel, because I followed movie fights for a while. I stopped after long before this. I stopped because I kind of grew tired of it. But I've always heard it pronounced Signor.
So what this does in the case of Weinstein as well as Signor is that I'm hoping that this is going to set a precedent within Hollywood that needs to be set right now. Is that if you have power brokers like this, and I'm not saying Signor was, he's an online content provider. He had a media backer. So there's a difference here compared, like it's difficult to compare him to, say, Doug Walker, who is funding his own stuff. But with that, I hope a precedent gets set. If you're going to pull this crap, I don't care if it's male or female, or, well, I'm just going to go with male and female. You know, I'm not going to complicate things further. This crap is unacceptable. This crap is intolerable, and it needs to stop. And that's my only hope in this whole situation, is that message gets carried throughout the whole of Hollywood, especially when you have, because here's the thing, guys, as much as people love actors like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and all that, they're getting up in years, which means we now need to bring in a whole new generation of actors to basically fill in the Ben Affleck and Matt Damon roles. Okay. And to set these standards of them and make them carry it on into the next generation, I think is probably the greater sin, because this is the generation that can fix that we can actually go beyond all of the bull crap that has happened in Hollywood. Weinstein is only the tip of the iceberg, guys. Just look into some of the rumors that you would hear about other production companies, and it gets worse from there. But I also hope that this also sets a precedent that now we can maybe not cut off so many ideas that are coming through. Harvey Weinstein was a production company, right? So he was a producer on a lot of stuff. So now another production company can step in place of him and maybe change the game, or change the playing field a little bit more in Hollywood. Maybe we can get some fresh ideas in there.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is that in the wake of Weinstein's ouster from the Weinstein Company, a lot of other crap has been coming to light. I mean, you've got the crap going on with the Amazon Studios and the people in there that have done similar things. It's very much creating a cascading effect of, oh, we got Weinstein, no one is safe. More people are getting the courage to step forward and come forward with all of these allegations, and that's important. I mean, it's one of the few times, because even people like Michael Moore have commented, and I'm not a big fan of Michael Moore, but I do have to agree with his sentiment that it's a profound cultural moment, because this is a big deal, because if you were able to expose the wrongdoings of what is effectively Hollywood royalty, well, it proves no one is invincible. As my fencing coach would often state, anyone can be touched now.
Exactly.
I realize that was not a good choice of words given what we're talking about. It makes sense in a fencing context.
Dang it.
Yes,
I should have caught you on that, but
yes, it makes sense in a fencing context because that is what we call when someone gets a hit. We call it a touch. We don't call it a stab. But that's the honest truth here is that, hey, now that a titan of Hollywood has been brought down by this, people are going to be a lot more eager to be open when this sort of crap happens. And that's a good thing. We need people who are victims of this kind of abuse to speak out because it's very much the classic case of if no one says anything, nothing will change.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that, I mean, obviously we can connect Weinstein to Signor's release. Okay. And yes, it sucks. He was the creator of his own product and he lost it. But guys, it was his actions that caused the loss of his product to him. And I don't feel sorry for him because this was a very clear abuse of power. And I'm not saying that Screen Junkies has a whole lot of power. I know that they've got a lot of solid subscriptions on YouTube, but if he was clearly abusing, then I wanted him gone. That's just unfortunately the bad side of that. Hopefully whoever replaces Ignore can fix the damage that has now been done to his creation and make it even better. I don't know who that's going to be. And just kind of running this back to Weinstein, I really also hope that this reshapes Hollywood. I really do hope that this creates a huge upheaval in that. And unfortunately, I don't think it will, because unfortunately, I have a feeling there's going to be another guy that's going to be just like Weinstein that replaces Weinstein. And
Wait, but to rebut that, though, the other thing to consider is that although, yes, there may be someone just as bad at the Weinstein Company, there have been a lot of smaller companies coming up that have basically been trying to change the industry by making companies that don't have that kind of behavior more enticing for these up-and-coming talent.
Yeah.
So that way, it's very much the classic case of, okay, rather than trying to wheedle in and destroy this company from the inside, we'll simply create a company that does a better job of bringing in new talent and creating more unique films. So that way, it gets more competitive. I know a good example is that Mila Kunis actually started a production company for that purpose, was to give women, female directors, female actors, more of a chance, more of a voice to create the projects they want to create, rather than being pigeonholed into the typical Hollywood formula.
And you know what? I'm not the biggest, I have a feeling that if Mila Kunis and me ever met, that we would have many, many, many disagreements, but I actually agree with her sentiment in that regard. In fact, it actually makes me wonder whether or not Patty Jenkins was one of the many that got benefited from this program. The other thing too that I'm just going to say I kind of hope happens here, and I don't know if it likely can. And you guys will have to help me out on this one. Are there any movies that have come out this year that would be Oscar worthy that were produced by the Weinstein Company?
That's a really tough question because, well, they don't call the Weinsteins the Oscar Whisperers for nothing.
Because at that point, the other thing that I would also want to see happen is, because of Harvey Weinstein's debacle and because of the fact that we can't actually tally who's been affected and who hasn't, again, this is not going to happen, guys, and I logically know that. I want those films disqualified from Oscar consideration.
I know there is,
because I want to bounce this back to the Oscars. If Hollywood wants to send a clear message that this was unacceptable, you disqualify any Weinstein Company product from being considered for an Oscar nomination this year. I
don't really want to totally agree with that. It's because this is not the actions of a company as a whole here. The Weinstein Company is more than just Harvey and Bob Weinstein. This isn't two guys out of their garage making amateur videos here. This is a giant production company. I don't think the rest of the company needs to be punished because their one CEO is a creep. I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that's fair to everybody else. It's like, we've always said we shouldn't punish the many just for the actions of a few. We don't like that.
I'm not there with you. And the main reason I'm not there is because any person that was aware of Harvey's wrongdoings and works at that company and still gets a paycheck from that company is just as culpable as Harvey. at this point, because again, we only have 20 girls that have come forward.
Yeah,
right?
but then you got to
This
pretty
has
much
been happening for
disqualify all of
many,
Hollywood
many
at this
years.
point.
Hey, you know what? You're talking the wrong guy there, because I've been wanting to hit the reset button on Hollywood for quite a while now. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't think that. Oh,
Okay, so then let's narrow the focus. If it's confirmed that Harvey was directly involved in any way, shape, or form with that film, it is disqualified.
Let's see. I'm trying to see.
Again, that's a much tougher thing, because again, an executive producer credit can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, because I mean, his name is going to be on the movie, but how much involvement beyond just the fact it's his company is there going to be there?
No. And again, I get your argument. It's not going to happen, and I completely understand that that's not going to happen. I'm saying
if you want real action here, then have the Academy suspend Weinstein's membership. BAFTA has already done that. The British Academy. I don't know if I know there's a movement. I don't know. I think they might be considering. I haven't looked deeply into this issue right now.
There's a petition. It's not like a change.org kind of thing, but there's a.
Actually, I saw a change.org petition, but
there is one. But no, the one I'm talking about, I've heard it reported from a couple of news outlets. There's an internal Hollywood one to remove Weinstein from the Screen Actors Guild. So
right, he wouldn't be. I don't think he'd be in SAG because he's not an actor. So
it's a SAG-AFTRA thing. So I don't know if
SAG-AFTRA is different from the Academy, Adam. That you're talking about the guild. We're talking about the Academy.
No, I'm saying that there is a petition that was going to do that.
Right. So
at that point, yes, I think as an extension, yes, he should be removed from the Academy.
Yes. So that's fine. I don't think, you need to punish the entire Weinstein company. I mean, I don't know. Yes, a lot of people have said this is an open secret, and look, it's a dirty game of sex. It's a dirty game of sex, lies, and politics at this point, and it is reprehensible and it's deplorable, right? And it's sort of like how much was known, how much was just sort of hearsay. He said, she said, right? And it's just like, you can't cast a giant blanket statement without the concrete evidence. Weinstein should be absolutely held accountable for his actions. And Harvey Weinstein, as far as we're concerned, right now is being held responsible for his actions.
What I'm also saying is that if you actually come across a guy who knowingly turned a blind eye to Weinstein's behavior, he should be equally punished, because he basically was an accessory to sexual assault.
Yes.
So I'm going for the blanket answer just simply because this has been a thing that has been happening for years. So at that point, it's going to be difficult to try and figure out who didn't know about this whole concept. But yeah, I agree with you. Is it right to fine an entire company? No, especially when, dude, like one coffee boy who didn't know what exactly was going on. He was too low down on the pay grade to know anything. But like Harvey's receptionist, if he or she knew, yeah, I have no problem with that person being fired.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like we're not condemning the entire cast of the Cosby Show for Bill Cosby's actions over the past 40 years.
No, but a lot of them have their own crimes. That's the sad part. I mean, I can't remember the exact one, but I know. I don't think she was. No, she was the middle daughter. I know she's had some issues. And
Lisa Bonet, I think you're thinking of.
Yeah,
because you're thinking of the character Denise, which was Lisa Bonet.
Okay, yeah. I want to say the guy who played Theo had some issues too, but
yeah. To kind of get back on point,
anyway,
though.
So back on point. Just that's the problem. This is such.
Okay. Let me continue, because I haven't had much time to speak in this. So, as going back to Screen Junkies and Andy Signore here, I feel like like Romney said, this is an important time to really get ahead of this and not let the whole digital media industry get dragged along in the whole game of sex, lies, and Hollywood bullshit that goes on here. And, I think this is really important for us as consumers of digital content, as we do kind of forget there is not as much of a third wall as there has been before with, You know, I've mentioned this before. There's the disconnect that we have with Hollywood, because Hollywood's always been the far off dreamland for many people,
Yep.
where YouTube has places like YouTube, which is where Screen Junkies is, most present, has always felt much more interpersonal. So the third wall is just not as there. So I think this is important to remember that, well, Screen Junkies is, yes, a company. Well, it's part of a branch of many, many companies here, or it's under one big company, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah, it's part
people
of an
who, and for people who do get into who do say, okay, for all intensive examples, I'm not throwing any accusations here, but let's say one day somebody, you, the listener, you get that job, that dream job with the team, that guy with the glasses, right? It's important to remember that guy with the glasses is a company now, and you need to protect yourself. You need to protect yourself from this, and you need to, well, ideally try and use the HR resources if they'll be of service. There has been the accusations that Screen Junkies HR department was not very helpful. Well, maybe not Screen Junkies, but the media company that owes them.
It would have been Defy.
Yeah, Defy. Sorry, I keep forgetting their name. Defy Media was not very helpful in this case, but I think this goes to show you really, really protect yourself. You got to protect yourself, and you got to watch out for yourself. Don't let people take advantage of you like this. And if somebody tries to either speak up, if you're afraid of being blackballed, I understand it's a scary, but don't be afraid of that. It's speak up, because this is not okay. And if you're worried nobody believing you, and unfortunately people are still casting that doubt about what's going on with Screen Junkies and the Weinsteins, because they did wait so long, and unfortunately that casts shadows of doubt. I get it. I don't think I think they're really, but it's unfortunately casting doubt. So start the paper trail early, and just document everything, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Because there will be a penalty for Screen Junkies for this happening. I honestly think there will be I'm not saying like dedicated YouTubers who are in the creative industry, they probably won't do this, but I have a feeling that like maybe your average Joes that liked Screen Junkies and were subscribed to them, they'll probably look at this and debate whether or not they want to stay subscribed to Screen Junkies. And I'm not saying you're going to see a huge amount leaving Screen Junkies. I think they're in the millions. But you are going to see a dent, and that dent is business lost. So there is going to be a penalty long-term for Screen Junkies, because I'm thoroughly convinced on YouTube, once you lose somebody, it's not that easy to get them back. Because at that point they'll probably watch your videos, but they're probably not going to support your channel given the past that you've had, kind of thing. I'm one of them. I have channels that I no longer support because I got sick and tired of their BS. John Tron and the Completionist are perfect examples of this, that I don't support those channels anymore. So there will be that dent. There will be a penalty for this, but it's not going to be as big a penalty as people might think. One would just hope that, or hope to be. But we all would hope that this is something that Screen Junkies as a whole learns from, and they take that creation that Andy Signor was able to get jump started, and they'll make something better out of it. Make something that their subscribers can be proud of. That's what I would hope for. And I do agree with Alex's sentiments. Like, I know that the joke of Hollywood is to exploit yourself endlessly, whether it be that you're trying to get a writing career, an acting career, a producing career, whatever. But I'd like to think that we're in the era that's past exploitation. Mm-hmm. If you want to be exploited, it's because you willingly wish to do so.
Yeah. Kind of and the other thing to consider is that we're in a change where Hollywood, I mean, calling it right here, in a good 20 years or so, Hollywood may no longer be the center of film and television, because we're starting to see, especially with the rise of grassroots filmmaking, with everyone even being able to make films on their smartphone, the industry is changing. And, well, my hope is that within 20 years, the production of film and television will be a little decentralized, meaning that crap like this is less likely to happen. Granted, it's a bit optimistic, a bit naive, but if there's a good time to get ahead of this sort of behavior, if you're trying to affect that change, like I know I am personally, I'm trying to affect that change with one day opening my own studio, but it's very much one of those, yeah, we need to spot these behaviors early, especially if you're creating a studio and starting out. Spot the behavior early, bring it to light, and make sure that it's cut out like the cancer that it is, and just if you, it's very much see something, say something, don't stay silent, because silence is agreement.
Silence is agreement. Silence is complicity in that particular crime, especially if you know what it is to be a crime. But in essence, like, just to kind of couple with Romney's thought, we are having huge renaissances happening in the entertainment industry, where Hollywood, like in my time and for most of you guys' time, has been the central hub of all entertainment. Now we have Netflix, now we have Amazon, now we have Hulu, now we have YouTube, now we have Blip, VidMe, all of these other places for this stuff to happen.
Blip is gone, Adam.
Well, I'm using examples here. So you have other outlets that are rising up, not necessarily to compete, but to be that other resource. One of the things that I've actually been really happy about these last 4 to 5 years is Sundance, when I was a kid, wasn't a big deal. Like, indie film festivals were not a big deal. You had maybe 2 or 3 movies, and yeah, they might have been good, but that was it. And sometimes those indie directors were never heard from again. But now, like at Sundance and other indie film festivals, you're hearing about so many awesome movies that are coming out of, like Romney said, people recording off their smartphones, that are just as thought provoking and just as awesome as what Michael Bay or what Zack Snyder is doing. And speaking of Zack Snyder, he's actually, I just barely read a rumor that he's actually working on a film via his smartphone right now. Because he checks in. He hasn't really checked in too much with Justice League since then, but now he's working on film again. So that's considered a good thing, at least in that respect. Like, I wouldn't want him wallowing in depression, and neither do I think his daughter would be. And so I like the fact that we have these avenues now open to us to be able to create, basically, to, if you don't like the way that the current Hollywood system works, the best way to be able to take care of it is to become it, or to at least to be a contender for it. And this is the way to do it. So, and frankly, if you don't like this system, you need to support these little guys so that they can eventually gain that support. So I think that's pretty much a good final thought, unless you guys have additional stuff to do on this story. No, I
think we've pretty much pounded the nail, not just into the wood. I think we're now damaging the wood and forcing the nail out the other side at this point.
Pretty much. We're bending the nail at this point. So let's go ahead and get into the final story that we have tonight, which got unveiled earlier this week and has created a little bit of a debate. And I'm actually kind of happy about this debate as it's been happening. So some people have seen this, some people haven't, but there is a new Star Wars The Last Jedi trailer out there. And what's interesting about this trailer is that Rian Johnson, I believe, shortly either before or after this trailer debuted, Rian Johnson took to Twitter and did something that I don't think in my lifetime I've ever seen a director do. And that was, he actually encouraged people to not see the trailer. So in particular, I'm going to quote Rian Johnson's Twitter. "I am legitimately torn. If you want to come in clean, absolutely avoid this trailer. But it's good."
Yep. To give context, this was specifically a fan asked Rian Johnson on Twitter whether fans should avoid the trailer for fear of spoilers, and that was his response. Was he was torn because on the one hand, the trailer is awesome, but on the other hand, he understands people want to come in clean. I'm kind of in that same camp where I don't actively seek out the trailers. I mean, if I see it in the theater when watching a movie, then I see it in the theater. I don't mind as much. I just don't actively seek it out, and, well, I understand the sentiment. Some people, I mean, Leonard Maltin is a good example of a film critic who tries to come in as clean as possible, so much so that he's frequently had to tell people that if they see him in the theater with his ears plugged and his head between his between his knees, he's not having a stroke. He's just trying to avoid seeing any of the trailers.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the other things that I do like is that Ryan kind of put out another tweet to just explain kind of his position on the matter. But he did say more stuff is coming. That's the nature of the beast. I fully endorse avoiding everything you can from now till December. Basically doing what I don't think a director in my lifetime has ever done, which is basically saying, if you want to come in clean, if you want to be able to get the full filming experience, I completely understand. Don't see this trailer. Go and see the film, because obviously he'll still get the ticket money, but don't go see the trailer. And most of the time, like in my lifetime, directors have said, yes, please see every trailer. Please see every bit of art that we actually ever do for this. Please go see the film, obviously. Please buy the DVD kind of thing. And I do like the fact that he actually addressed this issue. I also do like the fact that Mark Hamill stepped up also and fully endorsed Rian Johnson's endorsement. Avoid everything you can from now till December. So he put in a couple of hashtags there, but I also like the fact that Mark Hamill stepped up and said, I agree. If you want to go in clean to this movie, do so, kind of thing. But I also kind of see Romney's argument with it is like, unfortunately, we do review movies. So what happens if we actually get access to the trailer? I think me and Alex have actually even joked on Let's Plays and when I was like, what do we do? Bring earplugs to theaters? You know, so it's one of those things where you can't really avoid it. But a listener actually did bring this this particular story to my attention and actually did want to ask the question, are the members of the panel going to follow Rian Johnson's advice, or are you going to just go ahead and spoil yourself because you're going to be reviewing movies anyway, and you might as well just do it?
Well, to kind of explain my sentiment, which I've explained in the past, I don't actively seek out trailers. Personally, I prefer to see them when I'm in the theater, where you have the surround sound mix, where you're seeing it on the screen that you're going to be seeing it on, because to me, that gives a better idea of what you're actually getting into. So I'm not like so paranoid that I'm going to plug my ears and close my eyes when a trailer comes up. It's just a case of I make it a point to not actively seek them out online.
Yeah, exactly. My opinion is simply, I'm actually going to follow the advice, because this is the third middle movie in a trilogy we're going to get. This is honestly a Star Wars trilogy I never thought I was going to get in my lifetime. I really didn't think that 7, 8, 9 were going to happen in my lifetime. I thought 1 through 6 was going to be it. And so at that point, I kind of regret watching all of the teaser trailers for episode 7. I kind of regret it, because I think I would have actually gotten a little bit more enjoyment out of The Force Awakens if I'd walked in spoiler free. And so at that point, I'm actually going to follow Rian Johnson's advice and try my very hardest to not get a trailer to not see this trailer until I actually see the legitimate movie. I don't know if that's legitimately possible, because we've got 3 movies, Alex, that we got to do vlogs for before Star Wars.
If we get to them, that is.
Yeah, because we yeah, that's the other problem too. Like, we already missed a couple of movies, but I'm gonna try my damnedest to just avoid trailers as much as I possibly can. Does that mean that I miss out on other cool trailers? Yeah, but for Star Wars, it's kind of worth it for me. I really do want to kind of go in and feel legitimate Star Wars magic when I walk in. What about you, Alex? Where are you standing on the situation?
Yeah, I'm in the same camp. I'm gonna pretty much do everything I can to avoid the trailer. I tried the same for the Force Awakens. I think at some point I eventually did get stuck watching the full theatrical trailer, because we were probably at a different movie to review that. So, but by that point, at least I'd done everything I could to avoid it. I've even gone as far, because I follow a couple Star Wars channels, so I even avoid any channels that do the trailer dissection, or I even avoid speculation trailers about what the story might do. Or
did you go the extra step to like hide notifications from those channels?
No, because I just I mean, they're generally not very spoilerish anyway. It's just they have thumbnails that might be, or titles that might be curious, but for the most part, I just I see it in my feed and I just don't bother watching it, because it's like, yeah, I don't want to really know. I don't want to have the trailer dissected, and I really don't want to speculate. I just want to see the movie when the movie comes.
See, I've had to, because a lot of the Star Wars channels that I follow are specifically following Star Wars lore. They don't necessarily dissect trailers. They're like dissecting lore. And because there's a brand new trailer out already, I got spammed with, I actually had to turn away from the screen because it was like, oh, we're actually going into what if scenarios in the trailer. And so it's like, oh yeah, I actually had to, and I'm going to temporarily do this. I'm hiding all notifications from the Star Wars Lore channels that I follow, just because I get it. You know, this is their bread and butter. This is their speculation. And this is something that they've been waiting for, but you know, I want to walk in spoiler free. So at that point, I'll turn those notifications back on afterwards. And maybe I'll even go back and watch those videos and just see what maybe they thought, and then see their opinions after the movies. But yeah, it sounds to me like all of us are at least going to try our damnedest to not be spoiled and to walk in as spoiler free as we possibly can for Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And I do actually like that concept, especially since I believe, yeah, we do actually have that set as a Geek News group review when that comes out. So that'll be awesome. But that is all the stories that we have tonight, and I think that's going to go ahead and do it for the podcast. So if people want to get a hold of us to ask us questions or argue with us on our various opinions on the stories we covered tonight, Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. Shadowblazer 3000 is my channel where I do anime-related content. Sorry, guys, I know I haven't really put up any thoughts about some of the fall shows yet. I keep procrastinating it for whatever reason. So here's the thing. I know this doesn't mean a whole lot after the fact if you're listening to this, but you can go find it for yourself. I'll just go ahead and just drop them all my first impressions in our next Dragon Shadow live stream.
He loved Ultra Instinct Goku. I'm sorry.
It's only 3 shows, so it's not like it'll take up the whole Q&A stream. So I'll just I'll probably just throw out something separate in the meantime as well. So yeah, follow me. Shadowblazer 3000 is my channel for all anime content that you like. And if you want to always get notified of when new videos go up, then follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort.
All right. And actually, I'm going to cover this really quick because I do believe that we do have another DB fan in the panel here. Really quick, because I know I got pelted with questions. Romney, did you get asked at all about the DB Super major reveal that happened last weekend?
Not really, and I haven't really been watching Super at all. I mean, I've made it clear I've just lost interest because I'm of the opinion that it should have ended with the Cell Saga. And so I've aged out of it. Super just does not appeal to me.
So you don't like Ultra Instinct Goku? I'll admit I've seen it, but that's just because like whenever there's a new form, I gotta see it. I've got to see it in its animation just to see what they've done.
I just have to say this: 2 words: power creep. That is all.
All new right, powers as the plot demands.
Every 20 or 30 episodes. So Romney, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on the second home of my channel, VidMe, at vid.me/StudioGhost. I am also on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews, no apostrophe, and I am at Romney Reviews on Twitter. And speaking of shonen properties, this week's Romney's recommendation is actually tied to a shonen property that I've been kind of revisiting because it is Halloween, and this is kind of a good Halloween sort of series, as this week's Romney's recommendation is Shaman King, Master of Spirits for the Game Boy Advance. It's a game that I got as a birthday present as a kid. Shaman King is up there with a lot of the other shonen series I grew up with, stuff like One Piece, stuff like Dragon Ball, stuff like Rurouni Kenshin. And for those of you who don't know, the basic premise of Shaman King, much like any other shonen manga, is that you basically have shaman who team up with super powerful ghosts, battle each other so that one person will eventually become the eponymous Shaman King. And it's actually an anime that it's one of the better dubs 4Kids put out. Granted, that's not saying much because it is 4Kids, but it still has a great deal of nostalgia, and so I've been replaying this game that was made specifically to accompany the 4Kids dub. It was made by Konami, so if you wanted to see a Shonen Jump title reimagined as a Castlevania-style action platformer, well, this is a good game for that. So that's this week's Romney's recommendation is Shaman King, Master of Spirits for the Game Boy Advance.
All right. And if people want to get a hold of me for the opinions that I've expressed tonight, the best ways to be able to do so is you could follow me on Twitter at Drac2326. You could follow my YouTube channel and get the discussion going there, especially in the comments below for the live stream of the podcast. I do try to get to you as quickly as I am able, but I also do have a Facebook page for my YouTube channel in particular. So you can go look that up at DracLP is what you need to search for on Facebook. Now, if you want to, what we would encourage you to do is support the podcast directly. And the first place that we would want you to do so is please go to our RSS feed and like it, download there. It is geekyweek.podomatic.com. And that's where all of the most up-to-date podcasts go. And that is our official RSS feed. So please go and show your support for the podcast there because we love and appreciate that. And that does actually help the podcast to continue to thrive. If you want to show your support on social media, you can do so either at Twitter or on Facebook at Geeky NRO. They both go to the exact same thing for the Facebook page and the Twitter, and you'll get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stuff that we're going to be talking about. I'm actually going to be bringing back like holiday polls just to get people excited, or just to see what people are excited for. Are they more excited for games, movies, all that fun stuff? I like having that community interaction with you guys, and those are the best places to be able to get a hold of us for social media. If you want to submit a listener story or submit feedback on the podcast, which we always welcome, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. We thank you guys so much for stopping in and for enjoying this. If you're brand spanking new to the podcast, welcome. We're very happy to have you here, and we hope that we have been able to give you an entertaining time. And of course, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening. We'll be back next week. So for me, for Alex, and for Omni, we'll see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions.